Hello and welcome to Swipe. Coming up, Twitter Beijing style, how social media users are getting past the censors to make their voices heard to the world on Weibo. The first 8th generation console is here, but can it cope with the growing threat from smartphones and tablet gaming? We put the new dual screen device through its paces. The developers made us wait, but Far Cry 3 is finally out. Does one of the most highly anticipated first-person shooters live up to the hype? The future is fast. Fresh from the launch of 4G, we ask what can we expect from 5G and crucially, when? And forget jewellery and perfume, this giant robot is what we girls really want for Christmas. First up, Nintendo's Wii U has been hailed as the first 8th generation console. But how many more generations of console will there be? The company's stealing a march on PlayStation and Microsoft, who aren't expected to release new versions of their platforms until next year at the earliest. Analysts warn 8th generation consoles will face huge competition from smartphones, tablets and smart TV gaming, which is booming. Nintendo's Shelley Pierce told Sky's Martin Stanford they're not worried.
Do you think these things will still sell, or have they had their day?
Oh, absolutely. I think that these are for a very different gaming experience, much more immersive, great for playing with friends and family at home. Also, they offer just really deep gaming experience that you just don't get on any other devices. And ultimately, that's what it is. It's a video games console, and it's designed purely to do that.
But what's it like to play? Games' Ross Thompson has been putting it through its paces.
So there's 3 SKUs available at launch. There is the base pack, which is a white Wii U, which includes the console and the gamepad. Has 8 gig memory. There's the premium pack, which is a black console. Includes the gamepad also in black and the Nintendo Land software. And then a limited edition version at launch, which is the Zombie U pack, which has everything that the premium pack has, all in black, apart from Nintendo Land is replaced with the Zombie U software, and you also get a Pro controller in the box as well. So, I've got a premium pack opened, and as said, it comes with the black 32 gig console, Nintendo Land software, and the new Wii U gamepad. This is the main piece of technology that is new and innovative to the Wii U, and where you will see all of the differences from when you played your Wii previously. So here we are in Nintendo Land. As you can see, the screen and also the TV offer the same picture, but one of the key points that you need to note is if you move the gamepad, the actual screen moves with you. So rather than having to look at the TV, everything is changeable. So it's a really, really cool function with this. So, controlling your Mii, you have the different attractions that you can go to. Let's have a look at this one. This is Donkey Kong's Crash Course. There's many new features on the Wii U gamepad. As you can see, there is a camera on the front, which will be utilised for gameplay and also chat. You have a microphone for different variations within games where you have to blow into the mic or you can speak. And you can also see that the console comes with a numerous amount of different applications already installed. One of the other key features is if you have Wiimotes on your current Wii, you can actually click the top of the screen and that will transfer whatever is being shown on the gamepad onto the TV, and you can then control these from your standard Wii controllers. So what we're going to do is, obviously, as I said, we opened a premium pack. We're going to launch Nintendo Land, which is the software that you get within the box, and we'll have a look at that. Mario also returns in New Super Mario Bros. Wii U. Standard 2D platformer, but this time in true HD graphics. Multiplayer aspects fully integrated once more. The Wii U functionality within this game also makes for so much more fun gameplay, with the player utilising the Wii U gamepad having much more interaction with the world and affecting what happens to the other multiplayer characters as well. It's brilliant to see Mario back in true HD, and again, you will really, if you're a Mario fan, want to play this game. Also for the hardcore gamer on Wii U, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 is released at launch. So the number 1 entertainment software for this year, released a few days ago on other formats. It now comes to Wii U on day of launch. With over 24 games available at launch, Nintendo have really pulled out all the stops to really go after not only the hardcore mass gamer, but also the mass market consumer as well. My recommendation is go and get your hands on a Wii U, try out the gamepad, see all the new games that are actually coming out for it, and I think you'll be sold.
You're watching Swipe. Coming up, you'll have a full review of all the hottest gaming releases, including some of those big Wii U offerings. China is famous for its secretive regime and shackles on free speech, so you might expect social media to be unheard of in the communist state. However, a microblogging site known in English as Weibo has generated a huge following since it was launched in 2009. The site has 368 million users, meaning around a third of the Chinese online community are using it to post messages. We spoke to Anthony Teo of the blog Beijing Cream to ask if it's right to dub Weibo the Chinese Twitter.
It's the most common comparison, but I think it really is more than that. Weibo translates literally to microblog, and I think that term is better because it really combines Twitter, Facebook, blogs. You have elements of Asian online gaming culture thrown in, and relative to its primary users in China, I think Weibo serves a greater purpose and is more important. To start, you could really do a lot more with 140 characters in Chinese. In fact, you can write posts that have 4 to 5 times more words than in English. I think what it really does is it enables people to be citizen journalists. And that's important in a country where the media, where media professionals are somewhat lacking.
But how does the government censor social media sites?
They make these companies employ thousands of censors who pour through content, and there really is financial incentive for them to not drop the ball, to not let sensitive information go through. Because if that happens, they could very easily get suspended. Individuals could lose their jobs. We actually saw that earlier this year in March when rumors of a coup spread primarily through Sina Weibo, Sina being the top Weibo service, and also QQ Weibo, which is owned by Tencent. And as a result, both companies had their Weibo services suspended for 3 days. And that's a lot of lost revenue. So I think it really is incumbent on the censors to err on the side of caution as it pertains to sensitive information.
Has it become an alternative source for news?
Hundreds and thousands of stories get broken on Weibo every day. Of those, maybe dozens appear in headlines picked up by traditional media. One of the bigger ones that I can think of, last month, there was a tragic accident on a highway somewhere in central China, I believe it was, and an official was photographed smiling and wearing a very expensive watch, and netizens jumped on that, and that story ended up getting that official fired. So what we're seeing is Weibo is it's a platform, it's a forum. In a society that doesn't really want its citizens to participate in politics, Weibo serves as a sidelines for people to talk. And make no mistake, government officials all have Sina Weibo accounts as well, and they're all following it, the opinions very closely. It's a window into how people think, and it provides very useful information for both officials and everyday people.
So, does he think there'll be less censorship under China's newly selected leaders?
Censors will always try to control content, to make sure there's a chorus. And individuals will obviously always try to resist, whether through wordplay or hanonyms or memes. I think that interplay will still exist more or less in the current form. The biggest question, and I think nobody knows the answer to, is in the next 10 years, under new leadership, will we see a relaxation of controls? When people get more wealthy, when the middle class stabilizes, they're going to ask for more freedom, and will the leadership be positioned? Will they be in a position to give them that? And that really is left to be seen.
You're watching Swipe. Coming up, we get lost on a desert island with Far Cry 3. But first, here's a roundup of anything you might have missed over the last few days. The shake-up at Apple continues. It's believed that the man who oversaw the mobile Maps program, which was famously terrible, has been told to hit the road. Bloomberg reports that Maps supervisor Richard Williamson was eased aside as Eddie Q takes up a bigger role. Q made a name for himself under Steve Jobs as a troubleshooter, working mainly on iTunes content. There's been a serious security breach at Google. A glitch occurred in Webmaster Tools, a service which helps users optimize traffic and diagnose problems on their sites. Users who previously had access but then had that access revoked suddenly gained access again. It means ex-employees or former contractors could log into reports and tools even if they'd been fired or moved to a rival. Stuart Miles from Pocket Lint explains the dangers.
Webmaster Tools is a lot more dangerous. I could, for example, if I'd worked for someone else and had access to their Webmaster Tools, redirect all their traffic to my site, or ask them to target some random Eastern Bloc country rather than the UK or the US, where most of my customers are. Or I could start telling Google not to include my site, the site that I've now suddenly got access to, into the search engine, which obviously has quite a detrimental effect if that goes through.
Facebook's come out to make it clear its users have full copyright over photos and videos posted on the site after a hoax warning went viral. Tens of thousands of users copied and pasted a statement on their timelines asserting full copyright over their posted content. A spokesman from the social network says users have nothing to worry about. And just so you know, when you post things like photos onto the site, you grant Facebook permission to use, distribute and share the things you post, subject to the terms and applicable privacy settings. The company doesn't own them. Now, it's claimed to be the biggest breakthrough in aeroplane technology since the invention of the jet engine, one that could allow you to fly from London to Sydney in just 4 hours. British engineers have successfully tested a key component of an engine which can cool air from 1,000 degrees to minus 150 in less than the blink of an eye and without frost forming. The Sabre engine would combine onboard hydrogen fuel with oxygen that it breathes from the air. Reaction Engines Limited has even won an endorsement from the European Space Agency. But secrecy is still the name of the game. The company has deliberately avoided filing patents on its heat exchanger technology to avoid details of how it works becoming public.
We're looking at a revolution in transportation equivalent to the jet engine, and access to space, access to anywhere in the world within 4 hours is on the cards. And once you've got access to space on that basis, that's the stepping stone to anywhere in the universe, and a very exciting future for the human race.
Now, some people like Twitter because it allows you to forget your online persona from years gone by. But that's all going to change. CEO Dick Costello has announced users will be given access to their entire tweeting history, rather than just back to a certain point like it is at the moment. The news drew cheers and applause from those listening to him in Michigan. However, he appears to have upset his engineers. They've got to completely rebuild the archive system to achieve what he wants, and they've questioned his timeframe of being ready by the end of the year. The new games just keep on coming, so here's Now Gamer's Ryan King to take us through his pick of the latest releases.
New Super Mario Bros. U was the first HD Mario game, and it's also a very important launch title for Nintendo. Obviously, Mario is one of its most treasured franchises. The interesting thing with this one is the way it uses the Wii U gamepad. Now, the Wii U gamepad has a touchscreen element to it, so what actually happens in this game is you have boost mode for co-op, where one player or even up to 4 players can play on the screen normally, but the extra player using the gamepad can touch on the screen and drop in extra platforms to help or hinder the people playing the game. It's a brilliant game in terms of the platforming. Nintendo clearly knows platforming better than any other developer out there, and I think it's also probably the most difficult Mario game they've released. So there's lots of fans, there's lots of people who've got a Wii U who want to use the gamepad for the first time, want to use the touchscreen. I think overall it's probably the best Wii U game so far. Zombie U is a survival horror game, obviously about zombies, But traditionally, survival horror games, they tend to focus on the monsters and the more fantastical, mythical side. This is very much a zombie adventure, and it's very much about survival. So instead of being about shooting zombies at distance, this is about fighting them off with cricket bats, and it's very intense, it's very dark and grim. It's a very interesting game, actually, because it's not the traditional kind of game you associate with Nintendo consoles, but it is very, very good. It's the kind of game you'd expect to see on a PS3 or Xbox 360 and think, yeah, that fits, that's a great game. It's very challenging, it's quite difficult, and I think it's exactly the kind of game Nintendo need for their Wii U launch, where it's something gritty, something a little different, and something I think will really surprise people who've just bought Wii U. What's particularly interesting about Far Cry 3 is that Jason starts off really, he doesn't want to fight people, he doesn't want to kill people, but he's forced into these situations. And as the game progresses, you follow his evolution from this tourist who's been taken hostage to someone who becomes empowered and becomes strong. The story is interesting, but I think what will really resonate and stick out with this game is just the fact you have this huge island to explore. You can hunt animals, you can explore caverns, and the island is so big you can explore it for hours and hours and hours and hours and still keep finding new things to play around with and experiment with. So really well done with Ubisoft. I think it didn't have a lot of hype coming up to its release, but they've shown that they really understand what makes FPS games appealing. And I think people playing as Jason and seeing his development as this character, that's really going to grab attention, and I think that's what people will take away from the game and enjoy the most.
Ryan, this is Dad. And he's called in his minions.
If you're familiar with the cartoon, you know that a lot of the humour is borderline offensive. They like to push boundaries, but I think the writing in this one is really lazy, and they take it a step too far. It's not particularly clever, it's not particularly smart, and I think even fans of Family Guy will find the humour just doesn't hit the mark often enough. The game itself is so bland and uninspired that it's really relying on that humour to give it its personality, to give it its edge, and to make it worthwhile. In addition to that, it's quite a short game. It's only 4 or 5 hours long. There's just not a lot there. The action tends to repeat itself a lot. The levels are pretty bland. Family Guy fans, I think, will be really disappointed with this. I expect a lot more given the level of writing on the show itself, and the game unfortunately just doesn't reflect that.
You're watching Swipe. In a moment, the Transformers-style robot that's real and available to buy. First, though, is your mobile data fast enough? If you've got 4G, you might have noticed a big improvement, but plans are already underway for an upgrade. Technology companies and academics around the world are working away to create 5G. Don't rush out with your wallet just yet, though. The technology could take up to 10 years to become a reality. We asked technology expert Professor William Webb what it could mean for us.
I think it will probably cost about the same as we are used to paying for mobile phones. For sure, it will be a more complex technology, and it will do more, and it'll be faster. Probably significantly faster even than your best home broadband speed that you can get today, even if you have a fibre connection. There's also another point that actually people probably wouldn't choose to pay that much more for their mobile phone service in any case. So the operators know that they can't push the prices up dramatically. There's just not the ability for consumers to absorb that kind of price.
So who's investing in 5G technology?
By and large, the players that we're used to seeing making the mobile phones today. So it'll be the Nokias, the Ericssons, and to an increasing degree the Far Eastern manufacturers, the Samsungs and the LGs and so on. But we're also still at an early stage, and at this stage it's often driven quite a lot by academics. So actually one of the 5G announcements that was made came out of the University of Surrey here in the UK, which was teaming up with some of the mobile operators to start research in that area. So that's the overall blend at this stage.
When 4G was introduced, we were warned it could affect TV signals. So could 5G cause similar problems?
One suggestion that the regulator here in the UK, Ofcom, has been talking about recently is the idea that we might put 5G into a piece of spectrum that is just below where we're about to put 4G. And that's spectrum that's currently used for television transmissions. And Ofcom has shown how you can keep moving the television down a bit and squeeze it up a bit and hopefully still maintain a decent amount of television broadcast, as well as putting 5G in there.
And finally, if you're struggling to think of what to ask for this Christmas, how about a 4-ton, 13-foot tall robot? If your relatives have a spare £800,000, your Yuletide wishes could soon be coming true.
It looks like something from a science fiction movie, but this 4-metre-tall robot is very real. Artist and designer Koguro Kurata grew up watching Japanese movies and animation, wishing he could bring them to life and pilot one himself. Now he's done it.
The robots we saw in our generation were always big, always had people riding them, so I don't think those have much meaning in the real world. But it was really my dream to ride in one of those giant robots, and I think that it's a kind of Japanese culture. I kept thinking that it's something the Japanese had to do.
The pilot straps into a control system using special gloves or a touchscreen to move its arms, drive it at a speed of up to 6 miles an hour, and even operate a sophisticated targeting system. Options available include everything from the paint scheme to cup holders. It can even be equipped with ball-bearing Gatling guns that fire when the pilot smiles. The robot's custom-designed operating system also allows it to be remotely controlled from an iPhone. But this level of sci-fi engineering doesn't come cheap. The base model will set you back £800,000. The robot's programmer admits the costs may be too steep for most potential customers.
If indeed giant robots and cars are being sold at the same price, then I would of course choose the giant robot. At this point, however, with the current price, buying one robot is still too much for me.
While Kurata says he's had thousands of inquiries, he's also received a large number of cancellations. So it may be a while before we park up at work next to one of these.
That's it for this week. Remember, you can catch up with the breaking tech stories all week on Sky News for iPad, our smartphone apps, and of course, skynews.com. See you next time.